we know that you are also investing. You're an angel investor.
By the way, so far this was hidden that I'm an angel investor. So I've not really talked about it a lot.
Okay, the app that you could recommend and you use on the go.
I'm just ordering a lot of food right now. So it's from last so many weeks and days. I think Swiggy is one of my favorites right now.
The course that you could recommend to our audience. Any specific skill set from the course
Sure.
we should get?
I believe that sales as a course should be taken.
Right.
Okay, every single part of time.
One quality that every startup founder should possess.
I think founders should need to have empathetic mindset at all stages of the company.
Welcome to StartupPod by Ideas to Impacts Hub and Binge Pods. The podcast has 6 segments. Each segment has solid takeaway for all startups who are watching the show. Welcome to StartupPod and welcome Akash to our StartupPod today.
Thank you.
We have 6 segments today, and I'm beginning with the P&L that you have gone through several P&Ls in your life.
Sure.
Because you have taken a lot of exits and built successful startups. So we would like to know your favorite case study or your near and dear case study to you, which you could share with us in terms of revenue flow and the top expenses that you had in your
Sure. I think I've always set this benchmark with NVIDIA, by the way. So I'm an ex-NVIDIA and I'm very fond of NVIDIA CEO from long time back. Worked with him.
Mm-hmm.
He's seen me talking. I've seen him talking. I'm talking this about in 2007, 8, 2005, 2006, right? Very early days.
Okay.
I think one thing I've learned from Jensen was gross margin.
Okay.
And I think that point stick to me so hard that in P&L, why gross margins kind of makes a lot of sense. I've never forgotten that, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So every time he used to come and present to us
Mm-hmm.
or to the whole company, I think the first slide is to put nothing else. It's just the gross margin curve,
Okay.
right? So quarter on quarter, year on year, how are we doing on gross margin?
Mm.
So I think, and it was the reason, right? Obviously, we were a hardware company. There's a lot of money which goes in making chips, semiconductors, and so
Right.
forth. So there, I think the gross margin is really a benchmark. And this gross margin is also a good benchmark for SaaS companies also, right?
Right.
First thing I would look out in P&L for any company at any stage.
Mhm.
Seed stage, angel stage, growth stage, hyperscale stage, IPO stage. Products, hardware, software, doesn't matter. Gross margin is what makes sense. As you go along in different other companies which are more service oriented, right? And that may not necessarily be only IT services.
Mm.
They could be B2C services, healthcare services, and so on and so forth. What matters, because that's a people-oriented service.
Mm.
So then you shift your lens slightly below the P&L and what comes out as operating margin, right?
Mm.
So you would see, obviously, large IT companies who talk about gross margin,
Mm.
but they'll put a North Star metric largely on the operating margin, right?
Okay.
So you have to always make sure that some of this expenses towards building a product,
Mhm.
and as simple as that, expenses towards managing your product, and your people expenses are kind of rightfully looked at it.
That we all, not all, but we know that you are also investing. You're an angel investor. So when you look at any startup to invest, do you put that founder lens when you find the company, or you have some other parameters to
Sure.
invest in that company?
I think when I started my journey as an angel investor, I was putting founder lens,
Okay.
to be honest, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't work out for me very well,
Oh, is it?
because sometimes that then you start getting too much into it. If you're looking at it as a founder lens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that also pulls you back, because then you start associating those other founders with yourself, and you may not be the best. I'm not saying I was the best, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in your mind, you start relatively comparing, hey, would this founder be doing this? Is he or she thinking like that? And so on and so forth. And that hampers your investment thesis and strategies, right? Because, it may be a good opportunity, but because you had your biased opinion, because of the founder lens,
Correct.
you missed out an angel opportunity, right? I was looking at from a founder lens standpoint, I thought maybe that's not the right way of investing.
Okay.
And thankfully, I've also observed how other people were investing. So it was not necessarily looking at founder lens from you as a founder, but founder lens is founders as founders, right?
Yes.
And whether those characteristics are coming along in their presentations and thinking. And I think as long as it matches with the opportunity, then you go for it.
Correct.
In a way.
Great to know that thought also. Let's move on to the next segment that we have is the most important business lesson ka kissa that you had in your entire journey.
Look, I think Nokia was a good example.
Okay.
Right. And I think everybody knows about it. Look, Apple just came on straight on the face. And I think that time I was in NVIDIA when I know I was sitting in Santa Clara in a hotel one fine morning, having breakfast, and the launch was going on.
Okay.
Right. And I think after that I moved to one other Indian company, and soon after in Nokia. I was actually in the last few days of Nokia, right?
Okay.
But I could see how Nokia was reacting to, and look, I was not very senior in those days. Right? Mid-management level.
Okay.
And I could see how company are reacting to such disruptions, right? And I think that was a great lesson.
All right.
That first of all, and obviously, though I was not in BlackBerry, and BlackBerry was also going through a similar turmoil, right?
Correct.
But I think those were such great lessons because you're sitting in a company, and you're right observing through your lens that there's a disruption already happened and happening. In my career, I think that was the most self-learned lesson through an external environment wherein at such scale, at such a global scale, I would say,
yes,
something can get disrupted just like that. And I think what reaction do you take in terms of product, business, marketing, communication, and so forth, all coming together can just take you one way or other, right? So that's a business lesson, I would say.
Great.
Practical lesson, learned, seen through my eyes.
And on a global scale.
On a global scale, absolutely. Yeah, I'm in such a great company. So great products for each segment of the consumers. And, just one single product can actually kill all your consumer segments. Right? I have a fantastic story. I mean, it was not even like one particular product is killing just one segment of your offering, right? It just killed all segments of your offering, just one fine day. I think that was a great lesson. So.
Great. So let's move on to the next segment that we have is a sales pitch. So you have seen a lot of sales pitches in your life. You must have given also, but from a wide angle and the investment angle also, what key points that you could suggest to our audience who are startups?
Sure.
I want two angles, one for the sales pitch for a customer and one sales pitch for investor point of view.
Sure. I think I still see that many times that a lot of people are not understanding the client properly. And I think they're just going and selling what they have. And sometimes it sounds cliche, but I don't want to repeat what others say, but I think the most critical aspect is listening to your prospect or to your client without selling anything, right? And I think by far that has worked out quite well for a lot of people. I think in the client sales pitch, you have to listen carefully. You have to do a lot of research. Many times, obviously, it's only good sales people know good research. Some don't do it. Some first-time entrepreneurs also miss that point. I also missed that point in my early days, right? But I think doing research about a client is super critical. Doing research about whom you want to sell, super critical, right? So I think some of this basic fundamental sort of criteria, as long as you're meeting it, helps you to sell more.
Right.
And just listen more and more. I think that always helps. So I think that's typically and a lot goes behind it, right? Nowadays, I think there are a lot of tools, a lot of processes.
Yes, a lot of courses also.
A lot of courses. Sometimes people overdo it. Sometimes people are not focusing on sales but something else because they think it's a sale, right? And so on and so forth. So I think one other key important thing is that people should really focus on their prospects and clients, right? I think nowadays I see a lot of entrepreneurs are busy in doing a lot of things, right? So, example, they are busy in just tools and processes,
Yes.
right? And they're so gung-ho about the tools they're using and the automation they apply. Well, that all helps.
Helps.
I'm not saying it's crap, but it does help. It is super important. But I think the first step is your client understanding your prospect, their requirements, their needs, their thought process, their thinking, and all this person-related understanding and so on and so forth. And then tools can help you in getting some speed on top of it.
Correct.
But I think people are missing that top part. And hence, irrespective of whatever best of tools you have with you, that's not going to help you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think which is where the focus is moving around. And some of the early stage entrepreneurs, I think they get stuck just because they are so much about these tools and processes many times. But I think with VC, it is, or for any other investor, by the way, for any investor pitch, it is important to let them know that they will make good money out of this.
Correct.
Right?
So number-oriented pitch.
Yeah, so absolutely number-oriented. But I think even from a product standpoint, you have to show this product can make real good money for you. Right? I mean, your product could be as good as Kohinoor of the world. Right? But if that Kohinoor can't make money, people will feel jittery about it. And lastly, I would say, don't get emotional in VC pitches. I think many times VCs, investors tend to ask a lot of questions.
Okay.
And for the right reasons, right? They're giving money.
Right.
I mean, imagine this, when you go to a bank and you want to open a deposit account, you ask for
KYCs.
so many questions. Even you as a depositor will ask.
You learn a lot of
right, lot of questions, right? Because it's your money. And you want to risk that money at that, but banks are still relatively very safe. But you still tend to ask questions.
Correct. Since we know, not everybody knows, but yes, I know that you are you were hardcore tech guy from the initial 10 years of your career, and then you moved to the business. So adapting that business skills were a gradual move, or you had it inherited? How was it?
I think yes and no.
Okay.
So look, as I was saying, because of Marwadi blood, that existed in one form or other.
Okay.
Was I aware of it? The answer was no.
All right.
Right. I think willingly I was happy to talk to clients, go to clients, spend time with them, understanding them before saying anything and so on and so forth. Right. So that will always help. But I think finding my first company, obviously, it really brings out your sales capability then eventually, whether you're genuinely you can sell or not. Right. And many times that always happens unless you're taking a step. I want to stop coding and I only want to sell. Or you start your own company and then there's no option. Right? You have to go and sell. Right?
You do everything.
You do everything. So I think that that switch was actually made me understand real ways of sales, real methods of sales, and what goes behind sales. Till then, it was just thinking that, you can sell.
You can sell.
But I think a lot more goes behind actually selling. I think some of the great sales folks would only know about it. So I think, don't think that just because you can talk nicely, you can sell. But I think in the real scenario, finding my first company helped me to really switch and understand business. So even today, if I'm, technology is still my heart, right? But my brain is always business, right? So, if it doesn't make business sense, it just doesn't make sense sometimes, right? So, unless you're doing a moonshot.
So the next segment that we have is a crystal ball segment.
Sure.
So future of business. Here, I want your perspective for the industry, future of the tech industry right now that we have. So the top opportunities and top threat you could help us to, guide our startups.
Yeah. I think in tech, from an opportunity standpoint, I think scale is now much more easier, is what I think.
Correct.
Because a lot of components have come together. So with less resources, you can scale really aggressively as well, faster as well. and you can save a lot of money, by the way. And this is purely tech, right? So I think the opportunity of doing something new in a very fast space at a very low cost, it's easily doable now, which was not the case earlier. From the technology as tech, right? Now, if you look at obviously a lot of other opportunities, AI is no-brainer. But I mean, I myself did AI company in 2011. We were called foolish, except Persistent buy us out. So thanks to them, right? So, but we were doing a lot of this stuff in 2011 in our own way, and it was early. I'm a strong believer of it. So AI obviously has helped in some of these other aspects, have lowered the cost. You can do things very quickly. You can launch a product very fast, blah, blah, and so on. And it has also opened the opportunity. There's a whole lot of things you can do with AI. And I think that stuff will just keep on expanding more and more as we move forward. I also see in tech, obviously, crypto is making slightly a comeback in a way. Web3 is something I've spoken about it. On the concept level, obviously Web3 makes a lot of sense because it allows a distributed architecture across a lot of offerings, B2C, B2B. It allows to avoid a lot of monopolies also many times, and so on and so forth. But I think the technology is hitting the base human concept of authority, right? And if you're hitting authority as a concept, obviously it will have a lot of pushbacks, right? So I think that's another area which we have to closely watch and might take some time, but I think it will come at a certain point of time. I don't know if it's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. I think that will certainly come around. But I think post-smartphone era, I think mixed reality is the real next form factor and next technology from the consumption standpoint. Now whether that works out from a AR glasses standpoint, whether it works out in some other form factor, we don't know. I think somebody will have to innovate on the right form factor, which will make sense. But I think from a concept standpoint, that again is, in my opinion, is no-brainer. But I think it's a matter of time. Right?
And quickly, a top threat you could see?
Look, I think AI is definitely a threat. Right? And
opportunity as well as threat.
As threat, absolutely. See, I've been talking with my wife since I founded my first AI company, that even in 2015, 16, when I was part of Persistent and so even after that, I was very clear that with AI, somebody can create a lot of things which will make a lot of things invaluable, right? I mean, code automation was no-brainer concept even in my mind from last 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, right? But I think the impact of that is pretty huge. And you could see that. I think the numbers are saying it right now. A lot of people are not getting jobs, and that's going to continue. So it is a threat per se from a tech population standpoint. So I think, look, Web3 as a concept is very interesting, right? So it allows, from the concept standpoint, no single party or person to be authorized of doing everything from their offering point of view, right? As good as social as example today, obviously, few players control how social works. They have control of a lot of data. They have control of a lot of their users and so on and so forth. So they become single most party of acting on behalf of all that data, right? Now, I'm not saying they'll do it wrong, but they can do it wrong if somebody goes for a toss, right? So I think Web3 comes in and say, no single party will have the entire ownership. It will be a distributed ownership, and everybody will be rewarded to be part of that engagement, right? So whether it is founder engagement, whether the user engagements, everybody gets rewarded based on how the participation is, which is what is crypto basically meant for, right? So you own it partially, you engage it because you own it, and you get rewarded for that, which is not happening on the Web 2, I would say, right? So Web 2 was interactive, and as Web 1 was static, right? You can't even interact. Web 2 came in, you started interacting.
A little dynamic.
Yeah, and Web 3 is something where you own, engage, and get rewarded. So I think that allows as a concept which makes sense. Where not single party is controlling everything on your behalf. But at the same point of time, there are too many people involved, right? So I think which is where you have to be careful.
Right.
That how is the governance? Obviously, you have governance tokens, you have founder tokens, you have, the participant tokens, you have marketing tokens, you have a lot of those things, right? So you have to be careful about how you are and what ownership you're going to what people to make sure that it doesn't become just an open-ended word.
Right. Okay, so the last segment that we have is rapid fire.
Okay.
And the first question to you is the course that you could recommend to our audience. Any specific skill set from the course
Sure.
we should get?
I believe that sales as a course should be taken.
All right.
Okay, every single part of time. At any profession, you should learn about how to sell. And I think there are various places to go and look at it. I don't want to pick and choose any particular source. The second area is, I would say, how to have an interactive communication. I think in this fast-paced world, our listening capabilities have gone down dramatically. And I think this is more of a soft skills course.
The next question is the app that you could recommend and you use on the go.
Look, I'm just ordering a lot of food right now. So it's from last so many weeks and days because of this work going on. I think Swiggy is one of my favorites right now. Yeah, both Swiggy Instamart as well as Swiggy Food. And I'm just like, if somebody finds out my screen time, I'll be like most of the time just on Swiggy, ordering on behalf of my wife or ordering for myself. So, but yeah, I think that's the one. And the second one, I like the Spotify. Okay, it allows me for some good music and also listen to some podcasts. So yeah, but those are two apps I would say, which are my personal favorites right now. So
great. The book that you could recommend to our
I think from the startup standpoint, the Lean Startup by Eric Ries. I think nicely written book.
Mm-hmm. One quality that every startup founder should possess.
I would say, I think founders should need to have empathetic mindset at all stages of the company. I've seen founders when they start, they're very, very empathetic, right? They raise 1 or 2 rounds, they become slightly empathetic. Mm-hmm. They raise few more rounds, I think the empathy starts going away.
Okay.
And I'm saying it's a general phenomena. Mm-hmm. I'm saying I've seen this a lot, many times. And as an angel investor also we get to know, right? So when we are investing at the angel side, people call ourselves a sir. And I say you should not call sir. I'm just saying that. Out of respect, they call you.
Yes.
And they interact with you, well, and so on. And as those founders go for other rounds, and their interaction becomes, many times they don't even respond.
One mistake that startup founders should not make.
Scale too early.
All right.
I think just don't scale too early, irrespective of whatever resources you have.
Oh. One quality to spot in new hire.
I would say passion to do more. I have generally hired a lot of people, by the way, and I'm not saying I'm a best person to hire, but if I believed in the person that person can do well, maybe some of the competencies could be lacking, and that has worked out for me quite a times. Right?
Great to know about this. Thank you so much, Akash, for being here for our podcast.
Thank you so much for inviting, and as always, great talking to you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.